Well, I thought of a situation that happened to me when I was in college. I had to do an internship in rehabilitation counseling, and I had previously worked at reservation. I'd lived and worked on the Cheyenne River Reservation. So I found out about a rehab center that was geared toward Native Americans, and so it was in Oregon, and so it was 2,000 miles away from where I lived, and so I went there and had an amazing experience working, and a big part of it was helping people get back in touch with their cultural background. So I had a great experience, and then I'm driving back, so that was great, and that I think sets the stage for where my mind was, where my heart was when I was driving. And so I was driving back, and it was the eastern part of Oregon, and it was extremely hot day. It was like in August and very hot. And I saw a hitchhiker. And I decided, because the weather was so horrendously hot, I thought, this guy's a mountain guy, I'll give him a ride and it'll be fine. So I pull over, and when I pull over, this other guy emerges, and they're hitchhiking together. And he looked really rough. He looked definitely, at that time, having tattoos everywhere and kind of rough-looking guy. And I thought, oh no, this is going to be, it's not a good idea. But they got in the car. It was pretty accurate. The guy that I had originally seen was a mountain guy. He was going back to Colorado, and he was hitchhiking. And they just got together to hitchhike because they thought they could get a ride better that way. And the other guy was a carny, which is a carnival worker, drug addict, had been a drug addict, alcoholic, and all that stuff. So here we were, three such different human beings, and we drove together all day, and we just had really amazing conversation. And then I said to them, listen, I'm going to see, we're near Salt Lake City. So I said, I've always wanted to see the Mormon church because I've heard about this place. I want to drive by it, then I'm going to find a camping spot. And I had been camping and traveling by myself, after my internship, and there's all these family campgrounds and everything. So I figured I'd just find one of those, and there's always like tents everywhere and perfectly safe, right? So they said, yeah, we'll stay with you because you're going to drive farther towards Colorado, after tomorrow, so this is perfect for us. Yeah, we'll stay. And so we ended up, and I find a sign for a campground, and I drive to the campground, and there's deer darting in front of the car. It's clearly abandoned. There's no one else there. And so I thought, wow, I'm a 20-year-old girl with these two guys that I don't know, except I feel like they're good people now that I've been with them all day. And so I'm going to trust my instincts here. So we end up having a campfire, and we end up sitting around, and suddenly the carny starts freaking out because he's afraid, because he'd never been in nature before, and he's scared to death. And so the other guy, the Colorado mountain guy, is like, oh, what's wrong with you? And he's making fun of him. And I start lecturing to this guy about how if we were in an alley in a city, we would be the ones that'd be afraid. And so he's like, yeah, you're right. And so we're sitting around, and then I tell this carny, I said, what I want you to do is sleep in the car, and you can lock the doors, you'll be safe in there. And I said, we're going to sleep out here by the fire, we'll be fine. And nothing happened. And then I dropped them off the next day, and we continued to have this wonderful conversation until I dropped them both off. So that's my story about meeting with someone that was the other, and how we connected despite the prejudices or biases that they might have or I might have about them. So especially the carny, because he was the most different than me. I was from a small town in the Midwest, and he was not that.